In 1940, a man was found walking along County Road 47 outside Raven Creek, Iowa. He was bleeding from his hands and face. His shirt was torn. He told the officer who picked him up that he had been inside a farmhouse approximately 3 miles west of the main road. He said he needed to leave quickly. The officer drove him to the county hospital. A report was filed. It contained his statement, a description of his injuries, and the location he had provided. That report led to a search. What was found inside the farmhouse became part of a case that remains, in many respects, incomplete. This is what is known. The property was located on a dirt access road that branched off from County Road 47. It was not visible from the main road. The farmhouse itself was set back behind a line of oak trees and surrounded by open fields that had not been cultivated in several years. The house was a 2-story structure, white paint, mostly faded, a front porch with a slanted roof, 3 windows upper floor, 2 on the lower. A detached barn stood approximately 50 yards behind the house. There was no telephone line, no running water inside the house. A well was located near the back door. The nearest neighbor lived more than 2 miles away. According to county records, the property had been purchased in 1929 by Daniel Harper. The deed listed his name only. He paid in cash. The house had been built in 1887 by a family named Crowley. They farmed the land for nearly 30 years. In 1916, the Crowleys sold the property and moved to Nebraska. The house changed hands twice more before Harper purchased it. Each time, the new owners stayed only a few years. There is no indication that anything unusual occurred during those periods. The land was simply difficult to work. The soil was poor. The location was remote. By the time Harper bought it, the property had been vacant for almost 2 years. When Harper arrived, he made few changes. He repaired the roof. He reinforced the barn door. He cleared brush from around the house. He did not repaint. He did not install electricity, though lines had been run to neighboring properties by 1932. He did not improve the road leading to the house. Visitors were not expected. Visitors were not welcome. Daniel Harper was 43 years old at the time of his arrest. He had been born in Wisconsin in 1897. His parents are not listed on any surviving documents. He was placed in foster care at age 6. Between 1903 and 1915, Harper moved through at least 4 different households. There is no record of him completing school beyond the 6th grade. In 1918, he was briefly employed at a lumber mill in Minnesota. He left that job without notice. For the next decade, his movements are unclear. Some records suggest he worked on farms in South Dakota and Iowa. Others place him in Nebraska. None of these records have been confirmed. In 1927, Harper was arrested for public intoxication in Sioux City. He spent 3 nights in jail. He was released without further charges. This is the only documented interaction he had with law enforcement prior to 1940. There is no record of violence, no complaints, no allegations. He appears in census records inconsistently. He did not register to vote. He did not own property until 1929. For most of his adult life, Daniel Harper existed at the edges of documentation. He moved quietly. He left little trace. Elaine Harper was 40 years old in 1940. She was born Elaine Vogt in 1900 in a rural area near the Missouri border. Her family lived on a small farm with limited outside contact. She had 2 brothers. Both died in childhood from illness. Elaine's father passed away in 1921. Her mother followed in 1924. After that, Elaine lived alone on the family property for several years before it was sold. It is not known how or when Daniel and Elaine met. By 1929, they were living together. They were not legally married, but referred to each other as husband and wife. Elaine had attended School through the 4th grade. She could read and write, though her spelling was inconsistent. A teacher who had known her as a child later described her as quiet and withdrawn. She said Elaine rarely spoke in class. She said the family kept to themselves. After her parents died, Elaine received no visitors. A neighbor who helped settle the estate said Elaine seemed relieved to leave. She said Elaine took very few belongings with her. She did not say where she was going. The couple did not farm the land. They kept chickens. They grew a small vegetable garden near the house. They occasionally sold eggs to a general store in Raven Creek, though not regularly. Daniel Harper made occasional trips into town. He purchased supplies, flour, kerosene, tobacco, alcohol. He paid in cash. He did not speak much to the shopkeepers. Elaine Harper was seen in town less frequently. Some residents recall seeing her once or twice over the course of several years. She did not make conversation. There were no visitors to the house, no social gatherings, no known friends. The couple drank heavily. Empty bottles were later found throughout the house and on the property. Neighbors who lived farther down the road reported seeing Daniel Harper return from town with crates of beer and whiskey. One neighbor, a man named Carl Denton, later stated that he had passed the farmhouse on foot in 1936. He said he heard voices inside, more than 2. He did not stop. He said it was not unusual for transients to pass through the area looking for work or food. He said he thought nothing of it at the time. Another neighbor, a woman named Agnes Tiller, said she had seen Daniel Harper driving his truck along the county road in the early morning hours on several occasions between 1934 and 1938. She said he was alone each time. She said he did not wave. She said she once saw him pull over near the railroad tracks and wait. She said a man approached the truck and got in. She said she did not recognize the man. She said Harper drove back in the direction of the farmhouse. She did not report this. She said it was not her business. During the 1930s, the United States was in the final years of the Great Depression. Unemployment was widespread. Many people traveled by foot or freight train, moving from town to town in search of work. Iowa, like much of the rural Midwest, saw a steady flow of transient laborers. These individuals were often called drifters. They had no permanent address. Many had no family. They moved frequently and left few records. It is believed that Daniel and Elaine Harper offered food and shelter to some of these individuals. According to the survivor's account, he had been walking along the county road when Daniel Harper stopped his truck and offered him a meal. The man accepted. He was brought to the farmhouse. He said Elaine Harper served him soup and bread. He said they gave him beer and whiskey. He said they told him he could sleep in the barn if he needed to. Rest. He said the couple watched him closely. Later that evening, he said he saw a shovel leaning against the inside of the barn door. He said there were stains on the handle. He said he noticed a smell he could not identify. He said he left through a window in the barn while it was still dark. The survivor, whose name was withheld from public records, was approximately 30 years old. He had been traveling from Omaha to Chicago. He had no fixed address. He had worked briefly on a road crew in Nebraska before moving on. He told investigators that he had accepted rides and meals from strangers before. He said this was common practice among men in his situation. He said there was usually no danger. He said the Harpers were different. He said he could not explain why. He said he simply knew he needed to leave. He walked for several hours before reaching the main road. He said his hands were cut from climbing through the barn window. He said he fell twice while running across the fields, in the dark. He said he did not look back. When the officer found him, he was disoriented and dehydrated. He was taken to the hospital. He was treated for minor injuries. He gave his statement the following day. At first, the authorities were uncertain whether to pursue the matter. The man was a transient. He had no identification. His story was difficult to verify. But there had been rumors. For years, people in the area had spoken quietly about the farmhouse. Some said they had seen lights in the barn late at night. Others said they had heard sounds they could not explain. A few claimed that men who had been seen walking toward the property were never seen leaving. These were not formal reports. They were conversations, suspicions. Nothing had been investigated. Nothing had been proven. The survivor's account gave those suspicions weight. On April 14, 1940, 2 county deputies and a sheriff arrived at the farmhouse. Daniel Harper answered the door. He did not resist. Elaine Harper was inside the kitchen. Both were placed under arrest without incident. The search of the property took 3 days. Inside the house, investigators found clothing that did not belong to either Daniel or Elaine Harper. Men's shirts, worn boots, a jacket with initials sewn into the lining, a pocket watch, a set of eyeglasses. The items were piled in a corner of the upstairs bedroom. They had not been hidden. They had simply been left there. In the barn, they found tools, a hammer, 2 knives, a coil of rope, a handsaw. All showed signs of repeated use and cleaning. Beneath a tarp in the corner of the barn, they found a canvas bag containing wallets, identification cards, and personal papers. Some of the names matched individuals who had been reported missing in surrounding counties between 1932 and 1939. Others did not match any known records. One wallet contained a photograph of a woman and 2 children. The photograph was never identified. In the fields behind the house, investigators found areas where the soil had been disturbed. The ground was uneven. The grass grew differently in certain patches. They began excavation. Over the course of several weeks, they uncovered remains. The condition of the remains made identification difficult, in some cases impossible. 10 individuals were believed to have been killed on the property. The exact number remains uncertain. Some of the remains were fragmentary. Some areas of disturbed soil contained no remains at all. It is not known whether additional victims were buried elsewhere on the property or whether some bodies were disposed of in other ways. The tools found in the barn were examined. Traces of blood were detected on the hammer and one of the knives. The blood could not be typed with precision using the methods available at the time. The rope showed signs of having been used to bind something or someone. The handsaw had been sharpened repeatedly. Its teeth were worn. Investigators noted that the barn floor had been scrubbed recently. Water stains were visible near the center of the floor. The wood was still damp in some places. Daniel Harper was interviewed multiple times by investigators. He did not provide a full account of what had occurred. He confirmed that people had stayed at the house. He said they had offered food and a place to rest. He did not explain the belongings found in the barn. He did not explain the remains found in the fields. When asked directly if he had harmed anyone, he said he did not remember. When asked why he could not remember, he did not answer. When asked if he felt remorse, he said he did not understand the question. Elaine Harper spoke even less. She confirmed that transients had come to the house. She said they had served them meals. She said some of them had stayed overnight. She did not provide further details. She did not deny involvement. When asked if she had participated in the killings, she said she did what was needed. When asked to clarify, she did not respond. Neither Daniel nor Elaine Harper expressed remorse. Neither provided names. Neither offered a motive. One investigator later said that Daniel Harper showed no emotion during the interviews. He said Harper answered questions in a flat tone. He said Harper's hands did not shake. He said Harper asked for water twice and for a cigarette once. He said Harper did not ask about Elaine. He said Harper did not ask about the charges. He said Harper seemed indifferent to the process. Another investigator said that Elaine Harper stared at the floor during most of her interview. He said she spoke so quietly that he had to ask her to repeat herself several times. He said she did not make eye contact. He said when he asked her if she understood what she was being accused of, she nodded. He said when he asked her if she wanted to explain what had happened, she said there was nothing to explain. Of the 10 individuals believed to have been killed, only 4 were positively identified. One was a man named Thomas Kern, age 29, originally from Illinois. He had been reported missing in 1935 after leaving a work camp near Des Moines. His family had tried to find him. They had written to local authorities in several counties. They had received no response. His remains were identified through a distinctive scar on his left forearm, which had been mentioned in the missing persons report. Another was identified as William Driscoll, age 34, from Ohio. His last known location was a shelter in Council Bluffs in 1937. He had told the shelter operator that he was traveling west to find work. He had left behind a small bag containing a Bible and a letter from his sister. The letter was still in the bag when it was found among the belongings in the barn. His sister was contacted. She traveled to Iowa to confirm the identification. She did not speak to reporters. A third victim was a man named Samuel Ott. He was 41 years old. His family had last heard from him in 1933. He had written to say he was working on a farm near Raven Creek. He said he would send money soon. He never did. His family assumed he had moved on. They did not file a missing persons report. His identification was confirmed through a ring he had been wearing. The ring had been described in a letter he had sent to his brother. The fourth was never named publicly. His identity was confirmed through dental records, but his name was withheld at the request of his surviving relatives. He had been reported missing in 1936. He had been traveling alone. He had no wife, no children. His family did not want his name associated with the case. They requested privacy. That request was honored. The remaining 6 victims were never identified. Their belongings were catalogued. Their remains were examined. No matches were found in missing persons reports. No families came forward. It is believed they had no one looking for them. One of the unidentified victims had been carrying a harmonica. Another had a knife with a carved wooden handle. A third had a notebook with entries written in pencil. The entries were mostly notes about distances traveled and towns passed through. The last entry was dated August 1937. It said only, "Raven Creek, offered meal." Daniel and Elaine Harper were charged with murder in the summer of 1940. The trial took place in the county courthouse in Raven Creek. The prosecution presented physical evidence recovered from the farmhouse and surrounding property. They presented testimony from the survivor. They presented identification records for the 4 known victims. They called neighbors who described the Harpers' behavior and the rumors that had circulated for years. They called the investigators who had searched the property. They called the medical examiner who had examined the remains. The defense did not dispute the evidence. They argued that the case was based on incomplete information and circumstantial findings. They suggested that some of the victims may have died of other causes. They suggested that the Harpers may have buried bodies they found on their property without reporting them. They did not provide an alternative explanation for the tools, the belongings, or the testimony of the survivor. They did not call Daniel or Elaine Harper to testify. The jury deliberated for less than 6 hours. Both were found guilty. Daniel Harper was sentenced to death. Elaine Harper received a life sentence. Neither appealed. Several aspects of the case were never fully explained. It is not known when the killings began. The earliest confirmed victim disappeared in 1932, but investigators believe the pattern may have started earlier. It is not known how many people came to the farmhouse and left unharmed. The couple admitted to offering shelter to transients on multiple occasions. Not all of those individuals were accounted for. It is not known why certain individuals were targeted and others were not. There was no clear pattern in age, appearance, or behavior. It is not known whether Daniel Harper acted alone or whether Elaine Harper participated directly in the killings. Evidence suggested both were present during at least some of the events, but their exact roles were never clarified. Neither provided a motive. Neither explained what had happened inside the house or in the barn. Neither expressed understanding of why they had done what they did. One theory suggested that the couple selected victims who appeared weak or intoxicated. Another suggested that they targeted men who had no identification or who seemed unlikely to be missed. A third suggested that there was no selection process at all, that it was simply a matter of opportunity. None of these theories were confirmed. The prosecutor later said that he believed the Harpers killed because they could. He said they chose victims who existed outside the normal structures of society. He said they understood that no one would look for these men. He said that understanding made the killings possible. Daniel Harper was executed in November 1941. He did not make a final statement. He was offered the opportunity to speak. He declined. He was asked if he wanted to see a priest. He said no. He was asked if he had any final requests. He said he did not. The execution was carried out at the state penitentiary. A small number of officials were present. No family members attended. No journalists were allowed inside. A brief notice appeared in the local newspaper the following day. It contained his name, his age, and the fact of his execution. It did not mention the crimes. Elaine Harper remained in prison until her death in 1968. She rarely spoke to other inmates. She did not receive visitors. She did not participate in interviews. Prison records indicate that she worked in the laundry for most of her sentence. She followed the rules. She caused no trouble. Guards who worked in her cell block later said she seemed absent. One said she moved through the prison as if she was somewhere else entirely. Another said she never smiled. Another said she never cried. When she died, it was from pneumonia. She was buried in the prison cemetery. No service was held. No one claimed her body. The farmhouse was abandoned shortly after the trial. The property was eventually sold at auction. The new owner tore down the barn and later sold the land again. The house itself remained standing for several more years. It was eventually demolished in the early 1950s. No records indicate what happened to the materials. The 6 unidentified victims were buried in unmarked graves in the county cemetery. Their names are still unknown. The case was officially closed in 1942. In the years that followed, a few residents of Raven Creek spoke to reporters about the case. Most did not want to be named. One man who had lived near the farmhouse during the 1930s said he used to see smoke rising from the chimney at odd hours. He said he never thought much of it. A woman who worked at the general store said she remembered Daniel Harper coming in to buy supplies. She said he always paid quickly and left. She said she never saw him smile. Another neighbor said he had passed the property on foot one evening in 1938. He said he heard voices coming from inside the barn. He said one of the voices sounded like it was asking for help. He said he kept walking. When asked why he did not report what he heard, he said he was not certain of what he had heard. He said he did not want to cause trouble. He said he regretted that decision. A man who had worked as a clerk at the county courthouse said he remembered filing the deed when Harper bought the property. He said Harper came in alone. He said Harper did not ask any questions. He said Harper signed the papers and left. He said there was nothing unusual about the transaction. He said he wished there had been. The records from the case are stored in the county archives. Some documents were damaged by water in the 1960s. Others were lost or misfiled. Photographs taken during the investigation still exist. They show the farmhouse, the barn, the fields, the excavation sites. They show the tools, the belongings, the remains. These photographs are not available to the public. Access is restricted. Researchers must apply for permission. Few do. The land where the farmhouse once stood is now part of a larger farm. It is used for growing corn. The current owners purchased the property in 1973. They were aware of its history. They said it did not concern them. They said the past was the past. They said the land was good for farming. They have lived there for more than 50 years. They have raised children there. They have never reported anything unusual. There is no marker, no memorial, no indication of what occurred there. The road that led to the farmhouse is still there. It is overgrown now. Few people use it. The oak trees remain. They are older, thicker. They block the view of the fields beyond. 10 people are believed to have died on that property between 1930 and 1940. 6 of them are still unidentified. 1 man escaped. The rest did not. It is not known how many others may have come to the farmhouse and left safely. It is not known how many others may have come and never left. The case is closed. The questions remain.